Really, this is going to be long as I feel background information is relevant to the best course of action moving forward. Married for 8 years, dated for 3 before that, 1 child, 5-year-old daughter. I met my wife in 2003. I was in the military and was the best man at my buddy's wedding in a very rural northwestern state. We were really close, but he had gotten out to move back home and get married. My wife was in the wedding. I am very into fitness, and I'm usually attracted to petite runner type girls. But there was something about Jay. She was more of the curvy type, about 5 feet 2, 145. What attracted me to her, besides her looks which were amazing, was the warmth of her personality. When she would talk to me, it made me feel like the only person on earth. She had just finished her master's degree and was, still as an elementary school teacher. We didn't do anything, but I got her number and we were in constant contact from then on. After 1 year of long-distance relationship, we were exclusive. And during year 2 we were discussing her moving to be with me. She was hesitant to move down due to the military thing. Even though my job was very specialized, think spacecraft, and the chance of me being deployed or transferred was very slim. There aren't that many places in the world where I was useful. Long story short, I started talking to some of the contractors that we worked directly with. Let them know I was thinking about not re-enlisting. When my time was up, I already had an offer doing close to the same thing that I was in the military. Pay was better, benefits and retirement, not so much. Jay was super excited. She started looking into teaching jobs in the local district, got a job immediately, and that summer I was behind the wheel of a truck traveling 30 hours southeast. I already own my own modest home. She moved in and put a lady's touch on it and things were perfect. We were dual income, no kids, lots of trips, bedroom was amazing, couldn't get any better. Once she moves in with me, she starts shedding her curvy physique, mostly because she starts participating in my sort of very active lifestyle and diet. Within a year she is around 120 and absolutely stunning. I loved her old body as well, and I put no pressure on her to change anything, but now she is more my body type. Since I wasn't moving anytime soon, I acquired 2 more rental houses with my savings from the military. 2006, we get married. 2009, D5 is born. 2012, we buy our dream house, which is a short sale that I spend 6 months renovating it after work every day. 2013, we move in and rent out our old house. Now we have 3 rentals. Life is awesome. I don't know what else more I could possibly do as a husband. I really dig family life and find it much more satisfying than my single days. That brings me to present, and why I'm here. Usually, every summer I would take whatever time off I could and drive to her home state for vacation. She's off for the summer. I am much closer to her parents than my own. Her dad and I would go camping, fishing, trail riding. There's no place I would rather go. It's beautiful up there. This summer we were super busy and I wasn't going to get my usual vacation. We compromised. First weekend after school was out, I flew her and D5 up. Stayed for a couple days, flew back down solo to work. The separation was okay at first. We had done the LDR before. I still talked every day and Skype with D5 at bedtime. The longer she was up there, the shorter the conversations became, and the more excuses she had for not answering the phone. I figured that it was just the stress of parenting by herself, and the lack of things to talk about since we were apart. So after almost 5 weeks I fly back up. Her dad picks me up and we make the long drive out to her hometown. She acted really excited to see me, but something was just off. We have a big party, all the cousins, aunts, uncles are there. We play poker, have a few beers. Jay goes to be early, and I turn in shortly thereafter cause. You know, that night for the maybe second time in my marriage I get turned down for bedroom time. Her excuse is she doesn't feel right in her parents' house. We stay in the guest room in the basement, literally 2 stories, 4 doors, and 25 yards from where everybody was hanging out. Not to mention we've done it there every other day during every other summer vacation. Nothing physical for the rest of the visit. When we get home, we have some lukewarm starfish duty bedroom time because there's no more excuses. A week after being home I start to dig, because my gut is screaming at me. She got a new iPad for her birthday and is on it like I've never seen before every night. Sitting in the corner of the living room every night where I can't see what she's doing. Usually, we're on the couch together snuggling, watching TV, out just talking and enjoying each other. By luck I adopted her old iPad. Last Thursday exactly, I click on the Facebook app. She's still logged in. Old boyfriend. It started 2 weeks before I flew back up there. Very small town. They ran into each other while she was out catching up with her girlfriends. All the messages are there. It started out innocently with him saying it was so good to see her after all these years. Then he was complimenting her cause she looks fantastic now. Then it was remembering that one night etc. leading up to present where she's having a full-on dirty chat every night. I took screenshots of everything that was on there the night I found out, and I forwarded them to my work email. I've barely maintained my composure. Inside I'm a wreck. I think she can tell that something is off. Since Monday she's been deleting her chats every night. However, my new nightly routine is after dinner and putting D5 to bed I wait until she starts chatting on the iPad. I then take my iPad into my office, man cave, workout room. I start lifting and listening to music. Between sets I choose a new song, take screenshots, rinse and repeat. When I've had enough, I email them to work and go to bed. She has dirty chats about what she's going to do with him when she's up there again. About what they used to do. And for some reason she bashes on me and I've done nothing to deserve it. Reading the chats, it's obvious it hasn't gone physical yet. As far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter. This is a betrayal like I've never felt before. Deal breaker. The worst part is that this guy is a piece of crap. Drives a snowplow in the winter, road construction in the summer. Married to a big old farm girl. And has a 2-year-old that looks like Joe Dirt. I'm sure he was a football stud in high school, but he looks like a big out of shape dude now. I'm not tiny at 5 feet 8, 182, but I wear size 34 jeans, run 5 miles every day and lift every night. A lot more this week. That's about all I can stomach to write at this point. Feels awesome to get it off my chest as I haven't told a soul since D-Day. I've got a plan for a confrontation that I'll post when I can. In the meantime, I'm keeping my eyes and ears open, mouth shut, and acting like everything is alright. Meanwhile, I'm dying inside. She has had some sort of weird dynamic with this guy. I get the impression from before all this that he used her and then dumped her in high school. I think him falling all over himself for her has been some super ego boost. I'm not perfect either. Most of the time I'm the fun parent and she end up being the bad guy with D5. I get preoccupied with taking care of the rentals or working a lot of overtime and I'm not always there because of that. When I'm stressed, I get ornery and I like to go in my room and work out and be left alone. But within an hour I'm back to normal again. I'm also fairly organized and don't like it when the house isn't a certain way. But I try not to show that I'm upset and usually fix whatever's bothering me myself. I'm not trying to dispel any fog. I'm so mad right now I'm just thinking about a favorable D-through before she figures out what's going on. Comments. This is a lot like what happened to me. I caught it very early, told her fine, you can date whoever you wanted to. We had gone together through college. She got a funny look on her face and said she still wanted to see me too. I laughed and said that wasn't going to happen. All of a sudden Urban Cowboy didn't look so good and that was the end of him. I think you have enough to confront her now and knowing it wasn't physical. Hit her over the head with it and see what she thinks of being sent home to mom and her boyfriend. You will know shortly if this is just some idiotic fantasy or not. You need both the books listed below ASAP, also available at Amazon for immediate download. Do not let her take kids out of state. The good thing is you caught this early. Now what you do from here on in is the vital part. You must confront this issue hard on, spare no remorse. If you share joint finances, clean out that account. Then expose the affair with the proof you have. Do not let her gaslight you or guilt you. Remember, it was her choice to be unfaithful, and she will try to guilt you into believing it was your fault. Only through taking a hard stance and calling things on your terms can you decide if you want to get rid of her for good or possibly give reconciliation a chance. However, I do know one thing, if you rug sweep this it will eventually become worse. OP responds, maybe this is some fantasy to her to string along the guy that dumped and hurt her. I'm really close to her dad and was thinking that I should casually ask about this guy to try to get some of the history. There will be absolutely no confrontation until I talk to a lawyer and protect my finances. The plan for today while work is slow is to get an appointment with a good one. I was in a mad divorce phase last night. Today who knows how I'll feel. Had a very quick chat with an attorney. He seems good, only does family law on behalf of men. I keep a spreadsheet at work of all my assets, liabilities, calendar of when bills are due, balances on all accounts, paydays for both of us, when I get rent from each house. Basically my whole financial life in 3 tabs on Excel. I keep it on my desktop of the work computer, and I update it every morning before I get going. I sent the spreadsheet in, and he set up a meeting for next Wednesday to sit down in person and give me best case, worst case scenario and give me a rundown on how things work in this state. I will not confront before this meeting. I don't want to threaten divorce, have her say okay sure and then end up with a race to the bank in the morning. I'm not rich by any means, but I've built a pretty nice life for a guy with a high school education. I'm not ready to lose any more than I have to. If R does happen, I still think it's a good idea to start to isolate myself financially just in case. Until Wednesday I'm going to keep my happy face on and try to keep an eye on Facebook without torturing myself too much. 1 week later, I can't handle the pain anymore. I printed out all the dirty chats they had and shoved it at her on the dinner table. She was shocked, confused, and broken down and started crying. She said she just wanted special outside of our normal marriage. I can't believe the words out of her mouth. She was begging and grabbing me to stay. I looked her in the eyes. I saw flashbacks of our marriage and my kids, but I can't trust her anymore. My belief system is complete broken. I packed all her things the next day and told her I'll call someone to pick her and her belongings and send her to my mother-in-law. I'm going to need some alone time to figure out what is the next move in my life. But that seemed like the final chapter of my marriage life. Story 2. I have been with my husband for 16 years and married for 10 together since I was 19, him 24. No children. We dated a long time before marriage and that seemed wise, and I thought we were doing well. We never fight, agree easily on most everything. No money problems, share hobbies and interests, and so forth. He has done a lot for me and I am a pleaser type person and prided myself on being the perfect wife, so to speak. I completely 100% trusted him and never, ever thought anything was wrong. I was a bit unfulfilled, but that started from the very beginning. He was never highly physical and I usually had to initiate, and many times was turned down and cried myself to sleep. However, everything else was so good that I tried not to let it bother me. In hindsight, I didn't feel truly treasured or wanted, but it was easy and comfortable and I had lots of trust in him. Notice the past tense. Lots of distractions with my hobbies and work, as well as a good-looking future that was stable and secure, which we had both worked towards. About 18 months ago I was harmlessly looking at our cell bill and noticed a huge number of texts with a number I wasn't familiar with. I was extremely shocked and through a little digging I found out that it was another woman. My husband has a job where he works 24-hour shifts and had been working a lot of overtime, for real, the past 2 years, so he has gone every other night. I guess we grew apart a bit and didn't know it, in hindsight. The records showed texts and pictures sent late at night on the days he worked. I didn't have to question what was being sent. After a bit more research before confronting him, I found out this person was about 12 years younger and quite overweight and unattractive. Like 300 pounds plus. I am 5 feet 9 and fit, work out in a healthy weight, size 8 to 10, with a natural chest and consider myself attractive enough. And my husband is quite into fitness himself. So I didn't know what to think about this. The name was vaguely familiar, a person I felt like he had mentioned long ago. Someone who worked near him, however. He'd said she was really fat and never really mentioned her again. I also found the number from the cell bill hidden in his cell phone under a bogus name. I confronted husband by calling at work, and he first said it was just a friend he talked to at work sometimes and remember. He had mentioned her a long while ago, but then when I said I didn't buy the just friends crap given the crazy number of texts, talking all day and half the night even days before I confronted him. Although not every day and sometimes a few days span, but sometimes texting her at 12 a.m. before bed and then 6 a.m. when he woke up. There were rarely phone calls, though, at least on our bill. Who knows what he was doing at work or on work email. Only a few, made early morning when he got off work, disturbing. He said he would talk when he got home. It sucked because I had a job interview the next day and I was so distraught I had to cancel it and call into work sick. When he arrived home, he said he wanted to come clean, that he had been talking to this woman for about 4 years. So half our marriage of 8 years at that time, he claimed 2 of it was fairly harmless, but then it crossed into the realm of flirting on her prompting. Apparently, she stroked his ego big time. No offense, but she would never get a guy like this in the real world, you'd think. Looks-wise, they did send naked photos back and forth and had illicit conversations. He never sent photos or texted with me. I was absolutely devastated and shocked, as I had no idea this was going on. I had read flirty emails between him and some other old friends or whatnot on FB. But it was in the open and didn't seem to be so threatening. I did not do the same, however, with any guys. Only when we first got together 16 years ago and dated long distance were there a few incidents of iffy behavior that maybe now I should have believed. The only slight sign of this had been that he more recently, about 6-9 months prior to my discovery, was having trouble sleeping with me. He blamed it on recent workouts, doing cardio, and I believed it, but still deep down it hurt my feelings. Now I wonder if it was because he was sleeping with this other woman. He has now said it was due to guilt. He said it was strictly a texting relationship, that she had trapped him in by threatening to tell me if he quit, and they never met up or slept together, however. It turns out she lives about 10 minutes from our house. I just don't believe, despite her size, looks, that it was purely texting over a 4-year span. I said I wanted to have him take a lie detector test if he hadn't slept with her then. And he said no because he would probably fail anyway. No, the answer I was looking for. That just makes me more suspicious. It honestly doesn't matter if he did or didn't at this point. I was begging for attention and sleeping together, and to find out he was, for years, giving it to someone else, feels like more than I can get past. My whole life was ripped out from under me, all of my stability and security gone. It has been the absolute worst pain of my life. I don't make even half what he does and I have a farm and lots of expenses that I couldn't handle on my own. So now I feel like if I leave, I will lose everything I have worked so hard to achieve due to no fault of my own, and life basically poor again due to nothing I've done. Of course, now he's Mr. Nice Guy and doing all the things I asked for years prior to this. But that makes me even madder to know that he was capable and it took this to bring it out. I just feel like I am less willing than ever to meet whatever needs he wasn't having met due to my pain, fear, and bitterness. So, what's the point? I was really pretty darn happy and now I'm miserable. I have lost so much respect, trust, and interest in him, knowing he could look me in the face and be doing this behind my back. That there is no way he truly was in love or really cared about me. And I was so good and so nice. It seems like most guys would love to have this, plus a wife that begs for bedroom time many times a week, since I have completely lost all feelings for him in a romantic way. We have not had slept together in nearly 18 months. I really have a complex about it now. I had no experience when I met him, so to me, he was really special. Now it feels like it's all tarnished and ruined and I have zero interest in him that way. We did it a few times right afterward before the pain set in and I wanted to work it out. But now, I am completely repulsed by any attempt of affection from him. I don't want to open up and get hurt again since I don't trust, so I stay every emotionally withdrawn. It's hard because to protect myself I haven't told many people. In case we reconciled, so that they would not have any preconceived notions about us in the future. Most of our good friends don't even know. He is being patient about the bedroom time, but at this point I want to have closeness and sleep together. Just not with him. He is very physically attractive, but emotionally the candle has long gone out. I feel like by now I should be moving forward but feel further away than ever. I have gotten to the point where now I feel guilty that I haven't been able to get past it, and in my heart of hearts feel like it's over for me. I hate that he too is living without sleeping together during the prime of his life also. I guess he is, who knows? And I really feel like maybe since he wasn't really married for 4 years while I was, it's time for me to not be married anymore either. Maybe I should be single. Over the course of becoming detached from him I have become closer to a few folks and think of dating them and how that would be. Of course, he still wants to work it out, but I just can't get over 4 years of lying to my face and betrayal. What else is someone like that capable of? I have that feeling of not knowing him anymore. Stranger. I have so much good that I do appreciate that it's hard to want to give up the rest of my life outside of him. But I also can't seem to forgive him and don't really want to. And I can't have it without him, so I feel trapped. Neither of us can live super well without the other, and he has put a lot in our home and facility, so I still have compassion that I don't want him to live poorly either. So, do I stay or do we call it quits? I am so very torn because I know if I could just get over it that my future would be secure if this never happened again. But what if it did? I am scared to risk that also. I am tired of being in turmoil. He agreed immediately to cease all contact with the other person, and I guess he has no way to know if he still was contacting her from his work. And we did go to marriage counseling at first fairly soon after the incident, but the therapist said I was so angry and hurt that we needed to wait a while. Is that common? She said she couldn't help us until I could be less emotional and bitter. He seems to be truly remorseful, but I can't help but look at it as what I thought we had was worth the risk of losing. He is doing a lot of the things now that I had been asking for years and years. Which only makes me madder that he was capable, and only now is he trying, when I was trying the whole time. I don't know if doing the polygraph would even matter at this point. It was the deceit in general and the length of time, 4 years, that I can't get past. If someone can do this to someone they supposedly love, what else are they capable of? How can I ever trust again? I know that I can't, or it'll never be the same. I just have such a fear of opening back up and getting closer again because I don't trust him with my feelings, emotions, or my security anymore since all of that has been destroyed. I have mourned the sudden death of our relationship and now too scared to try and rebuild, to take that risk that it happens again when I am older and not as able to start over. I have 100% zero attraction or romantic feelings for him, even though he is a textbook good-looking guy. And when I think about being intimate, I am repulsed. If he makes any type of advance, it immediately makes me incredibly anxious. I don't want to live in a non-physical marriage because to me intimacy was very important, and I wasn't satisfied even then, but lived with it without too much complaint because everything else was good. And I feel like sometimes he is trying in vain, and it makes me guilty even though it's not my fault. Doing this has happened. I also am angry about and afraid of losing everything I have due to no fault of my own. We have a large horse farm, my dream, which he did help me build, and I can't afford it without him. I run a nationally successful horse business with a good friend. I can't afford the farm without him, since he makes over twice what I make. So, I feel trapped. I will lose all I have worked for in the farm, my beloved horses. My side business, have a regular good job but don't make a ton. My cars that I also love. Hobby too. And basically, hand to mouth with nothing, all due to something I didn't do? It just seems like an agonizing choice and so unfair. or I stay for the material things and never sleep together again, or risk having this whole thing happen all over again because I don't think the root problem even was fixed. I just don't know what to do. I am 35 and no kids, so still young enough to find someone else. Just scared to try again and have this happen at 45 and it be too late. A little bit more than half a year later, we have finally talked out the details of sort of how we'd separate and when, but I find it hard to actually pull off because he says he doesn't want it. Yet we have had no connection of any sort in 2+ years. And so he lets any effort I make to move forward die out after we discuss it. Then we go another month and have to start the conversation over, and same thing. I also guess since we are friends and he is a good roommate, I find it hard to break the relationship. I have been with him since I was 19, so maybe that's the problem. But I know I don't want to have a physical relationship. So, both of us have to move on unless we both don't want anything more for the rest of our lives. Not me. I just turned 36. No children. He has a shift job where he works 24 hours at a time and has always been that way. I thought it was a good thing until realized it gave him 24 hours to talk to the other person. Could be doing God knows what during that time now at work. Hard to trust. So, is this normal, or, now that I am over the hatred and pain of what happened, which I had to let go of because it was killing me and aging me, it's easier to be complacent, but then again, I also look forward to being single as well and would love to be able to date other people. The thought of him dating other people does not bother me at all. However, I guess it's unrealistic to think I won't miss anything about the relationship because most of it was very good until he blindsided me and ruined it. I had never an intention of getting divorced until then. I actually don't feel freaked out about the decision, just maybe feel sad that the person won't be much in my life. Because they have been a good friend, well, I guess not too good a friend to do what they did. But I can't stay mad forever, as it was killing me. That doesn't mean I want to be married. I would love to be able to see other people. He has to want to as well, you'd think? But he was so disinterested in intimacy before that. Maybe he doesn't. Who knows? Maybe this is a perfect situation for him. Actually, I'm not bothering him for sleeping together anymore. I just fear if we sign something or work something out and I start trying to see someone else that things are going to go to hell in a handbasket. We have talked about it and I have even suggested an open marriage, but he claims he doesn't want to see other people. But I can't be expected to do nothing forever when he doesn't want to end it, and I am pushing but with not much action on his part. People say he's waiting me out for me to give up and stay, but who wants a person that doesn't want to be with you? I don't mind staying friends, but then that will probably be hard for a new interest to deal with, don't you think? I guess not many boyfriends want to hear their girlfriend still talks to her ex-husband, and we had discussed still sharing vehicles and stuff like that. Just I think, will I ever find someone that will tolerate us still being somewhat involved as friends? That's kind of what we have always been, in hindsight. We never really were truly intimately connected, which is why I think he was able to cheat for 4 years, and was missing something. I just never did anything about it like he did. 2 months later, in the morning he texts early something short like, "Man, I'm tired." I didn't respond, which is unlike me, because I am annoyed and a bit upset that he stayed out all night. He called a few times and I did not answer. So, nothing else was said about it really, except I questioned him about where he was and who he was with. I guess because I didn't believe him deep down. I have known him 17 years and it just didn't make sense totally and was out of character. I never question. So, I guess he knew I didn't believe. I continued to be short and we didn't talk on the phone Friday or Saturday. Actually have not since. Sunday I am sitting on the couch and he's been at work 3 days straight. So I haven't even seen him yet. Common. And yes, checked his phone and he was there. I pick up his iPad and open his FB just to check things, which I used to never do, but not snooping at all proved to be a bad thing for me in the end. I saw he had a recent message with a girl named Alana who I knew about as a friend he had had a few years that works near him, about 13 years younger than he, and if I do say so. Not as attractive as I am, couldn't help it lol. The message contained nothing out of the ordinary as far as flirty talk, but did seem like they talked often the way it came across. I suddenly got an idea. I wonder where this girl lives. I put in her name on White Pages and the address popped up, the same address he was that night. I was instantly enraged and confronted him immediately, and safe to say I told him I wanted to sign papers right away and I was 100% done. And how dare he do this to me when I am waiting on him to move forward and he wouldn't. He claimed he just stopped by to talk, and that it felt good to get attention, and time went by so quick that he didn't realize it was so late. They didn't hug or kiss and just went to bed, which means slept in her bed together. Firstly, I called. We haven't had relations in a long time, so he would be sufficiently starved for it like I am. So chances of him saying no would be slim. And this girl is single and likewise apparently hasn't had a boyfriend in quite some time. So, he said he knew I wouldn't believe it, but how do you talk for hours and then just walk to the same bed and go to sleep? Doesn't make too much sense. What he should have done was at least leave at 10:30 and come home. then tell me we needed to go ahead with the papers. He also was very callous when I confronted him, saying I should have seen this coming and I was done with him anyway and it would have been nice to sleep with her. Why lie? Classy. The attitude was really just crappy considering what he had already done and put me through. He would also tell me he was still my friend. That's funny because none of my friends try to destroy me multiple times with selfish bullcrap behavior. So, at least this has made my decisions infinitely easier. Because I know now that whenever he's given a chance to choose his needs over hurting me, he will choose himself. This is incident number 2 at least that I know of. I am happy at least to have a decision made, ready to start living again. My comment: how you guys like these 2 short endings? Tell me what kind of stories you want to hear. Sub and bell and I'll see you in the next one.
Alright, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick? Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my 2nd year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, "I'm thirsty." Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job, having joined the company wanting to do customer service. "I don't care what they say, I plan to quit any time," he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. "All right, everyone's presentations are done." "Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something." Nick interrupted me. "There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer." He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. Still here? Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. "I'm leaving." I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. "Nick, what's wrong?" Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. "Probably Sam." Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I obediently followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was, as the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. What kind of training are you giving your subordinates? Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong. Mike, what have you done? Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. I didn't do anything wrong. You're still saying that? Look at him. Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract? Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go. Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him. There's no way he was pushed aside. Don't make things worse here. He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he? I don't remember that part. I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you've failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.